As Christmas fast approaches, the average shopper spends over £1,000 on food and drink, and gifts and much, much more. But it's the burglar himself whose Christmases come all at once. We take a look at the effects burglary has over Christmas in Liverpool. Mike Ellis, law technician and lecturer, explains the theory behind burglary.
I think if you ask most people in the street, they'll say burglary is far more serious and repugnant than theft. I think it's the fact that people actually go into your house, sometimes when you're in bed. I've heard of many occasions where people will get into your house, most often using wires to push through the letterbox. They pick up keys. People are very lax in where they leave their car keys and their house keys. They leave them quite near the front door. These burglars are quite adept at making these wire contraptions. They'll hook the keys out, and that they'll actually they'll enter the house with the keys.
How did you feel when you found out that you had been burgled? And like your personal things being rummaged through, and the invasion of privacy and all that kind of thing?
I mean, well, obviously when you're in that situation, it does rattle you, and you're petrified for a while, because I'll be honest, when we all first moved here, we didn't feel that settled. We just arrived in Liverpool pretty much, and then we hadn't even been in the house for that long. And then obviously someone comes in and they take your stuff, and it's like, okay, you're already feeling a bit unsettled. That just makes it even worse. Yeah, the lights were on, TV was on, it was obvious that someone was home. And someone actually, because you don't think about it, when everyone's in the house, you naturally just feel a bit safer. You're thinking, well, obviously, no one's gonna burgle you when you're at home. Well, not usually anyway. But unbeknownst to us, we actually left the back door open, and it must have been within a 5-minute gap. Someone come in through the back, taken my mate's laptop and my mate's bag, and had just gone. So in that instance, the alarm didn't make any difference.
Have you ever had nightmares after the event? The fact that someone could actually be prowling around your house in the dead of night when you're asleep, for example?
Obviously, you do think about security stuff, but before the incident happened, you don't. Well, I suppose we're a bit naive in that way. I personally haven't had like nightmares as such. But as soon as the stuff was taken, I had trouble sleeping, definitely. And I worry about it, ignoring Christmas. I worry about it all the time. I think, well, okay, are the blinds shut? Have we left any DVDs out? Is the TV visible from the outside? But yeah, I think Christmas time is a bit worrying, because obviously people are aware that students go home at that time. And despite the majority of people take all their valuables home, so say this Christmas I'll be taking my laptop and like all my DVDs and stuff like that, on belongings with me, you still think, well, they're going to know that no one's in the house.
If somebody attacks you, you're allowed to act in self-defense, but you have to use reasonable force. Now that is a problem, because how can you determine reasonable force when someone's in your house, you're acting in the heat of the moment? We know of many occasions where people who have been burgled have ended up in court themselves, because they've been overzealous in the way they've protected themselves and their property.
We wanted to know more on the legal side of burglary, what laws the police are enforcing, and what they are doing about the recent spate of burglaries in this part of the city. DCI Rob Viney, from the Merseyside Burglary Squad, tells us more on the subject. So what do you find the emotional aspects are when a burglary is committed, like when you turn up on the scene?
Well, it's an invasion of people's privacy first and foremost, and it may well be that people who've been subject to burglary, they've been through their private drawers and stuff like that. So it's an invasion of their privacy first and foremost. Some people are never truly able to get over the fact that there's someone being in the house, and in years I've learned people that have actually moved and gone away because they just can't settle, So that invasion of privacy is the main thing.
Do you think there's certain times of the year burglaries happen more often
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking to us now in December, and obviously, you know, traditionally that's when crime goes through, because of course Christmas presents, people have got nice stuff around. If you looked at it statistically, you'd probably say like December and leading up to Christmas would be one of the key times.
I understand burglary is a particularly harrowing issue for you. Would you mind explaining to us what happened?
I was living in a very rough area, and my house just started to get attacked for no particular reason. I was living by myself, and perhaps I was very vulnerable. As a result, I got myself a yard dog, and I grew very close to the dog. But I was absolutely devastated to find that the people that were burgling my house actually fed the dog poison. They gave it meat, and in this meat there was poison, and the dog died. Through all the burglaries, I contacted the police. After my dog died, I still contacted the police, and their actions were very formal, and I just had to fill out forms. They didn't prosecute anybody. They didn't seem to really care, and I lost faith in the government and the system that's supposed to be there to protect us. As a result, I moved away to a more recluse area, and I now enjoy a much better life, but I still live in fear through the harrowing experiences I once had.
Have you ever heard of SmartWater?
As far as I know of, no, haven't heard of it at all.
Like a wet substance that you put over your belongings, and then under ultraviolet light the police can get fingerprints and stuff. So would that maybe encourage you to maybe look into that?
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
It does.
You was talking about DNA and fingerprints. You know, the SmartWater has recently become talked about in the media. Although when we were out in the street, we found that not a lot of people actually have heard of it or are aware, and even the Merseyside scheme, you know, that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, what we do traditionally, and what we do in a lot of our crime prevention is initially, it used to be the pens, the ultraviolet marker pens. SmartWater is just another side of that. The thing about SmartWater is it's unique. Each one comes back to a unique branch. If you ask people about ultraviolet pens and marking systems, they would understand all SmartWater is just another variant of that, that's all. Municipalities are currently in the process of, again, I mean, we've got a crime prevention roadshow on this week, and they're handing stuff out like SmartWater. And every burglary victim, although it's after the horse is bolted essentially, but subsequent to then, they're offered SmartWater, and the registration details are sent off.
The law is clear that you can act in self-defence. It's just a question of how reasonable force is interpreted. I'm really not sure how far the American legal system allows you to protect yourself. Obviously, they have guns and we don't. Of course, there's always the danger if you're armed with a gun and someone breaks in, that you're going to fire it. In English law, we've had many cases. There was a famous one of Tony Martin. If you remember, people broke into his farmhouse and he shot somebody in the back as the person was leaving, and it was Tony Martin that went to prison because the force he used was excessive in all of the circumstances. So we do have laws to protect us. Some people say not enough.
Each liquid has got its unique own identifier. So if that property is recovered and it has been it's been subject of a SmartWater treatment, then you go back to the registration document. If an item is recovered, obviously a sample of that SmartWater is taken, sent back to the company. From that, they tell you who that property belongs to. You go under a UV light, but like I say, the registration details are held by SmartWater.
We've heard from a few cases of burglary, one in which was particularly horrifying. And we see that it doesn't just hit students or the elderly, but it can affect anyone. We've also heard from the professionals, the police and law academics, to give us their side. But from all of this, our message to everyone watching is stay safe, keep your doors locked, and make the most out of SmartWater.
Seven Nation Army couldn't hold me.